Mom gives birth to a baby and notices that he looks strange. A couple adopted a kid with special needs after being told that the little boy wouldn't be able to walk and that he may potentially have fetal alcohol syndrome. The baby needed a warm home to welcome him, and he needed it urgently. The mother says, as a foster parent, I believe that it's impossible to fully comprehend the responsibilities that come with the position. What we expected was to have one perfect baby. We already had 2 biological children, a girl and a son with autism. She continues, we had intended to adopt quickly to get out of the foster care as quickly as possible. In 2016, when we welcomed our wonderful baby daughter into our family, we had no idea that our hearts would soon be willing to open again, this time to a child with primary medical needs. We had heard about the little boy on social media, as we had a continual stream of messages on our local Facebook page, all asking if anyone has a spare bed for this youngster or if anyone can make room for a sibling pair. Usually, I just skip over these kinds of messages, but this one couldn't be ignored. A little child has been waiting in hospital for 2.5 months, and he's been unable to find placement. The little kid has no fever, but he was deemed medically frail. This is what the post stated. And according to the hospital, he only had a few more days until they were forced to discharge the boy because they had a severe lack of rooms, and he needed to be available for those who needed it more. The foster mom further added, in any case, I commented to obtain more information, but after learning the degree of his medical requirements, we decided it was simply too much for us to bear in addition to the 3 other children already in our care. I was confident that someone else would step forward. The very next day, another post rolled through my account, and then another the day after that, all from different people saying the same thing. This baby needs a home today, and there isn't one available for him. It seemed to be a never-ending cycle, so it was time for me to call and make everything official. But to do that, I needed more information. But I still have one question to answer. Is it possible for me to achieve this? There was nothing good about what he said on paper. The hospital had never seen somebody quite like him before. They even claimed that the little boy wouldn't even be able to walk. After the foster parents contacted the agency, they found out that with a small amount of additional yearly training, they would be able to accept children with primary medical needs. The child CPS nurse got in touch with the foster mom again. I was expecting her to try to persuade us into adopting this child regardless of whether it was the best choice for our family or not. She spoke with me for what seemed like an eternity. She inspired me with her personal story of adopting 3 children. She also talked to me about the improvements that children with physical disabilities are making thanks to the incredible medical technology that's currently available. She persuaded me into saying yes that day. She adds, when we first started looking into becoming foster parents, we told everyone that what we really wanted was to step down from the role and return to our normal lives. We were both ready to give up as it was too much, but we couldn't give up on this little angel, not just yet. On a Tuesday, he walked in through the front door and into the house. Even though my heart raced in anticipation of the arrival of a new baby into our family, it was also racing with enthusiasm at the prospect of bringing a new baby into our house. Even though he was endearing and sweet, there were a lot of odd things about him. Because he was born at 32 weeks, he was quite little and he lacked both his femur bones and his hip bones. In addition to that, his head was deformed from lying on a hospital bed for 2.5 months. The little boy also had twin amniotic bands around both feet, which added to his sense of insecurity. The foster mom was scared of mishandling the little kid. She says, I was terrified of everything. Was it correct that I was holding him? Was he in any discomfort? Is it truly possible for me to achieve this? The caseworker left after informing us that his family was in the process of completing a home study and would be ready to accept him soon. Our hearts were immediately guarded and we felt a tiny sigh of relief, knowing that this youngster would soon be returning home to be with his family. When my older children returned home from school, I introduced them to the new addition to the family. They were interested in his thighs and calves and they asked a few questions about their new little brother, but they were enamored with him. They took turns embracing him, pleading with him to stay with them forever. They were even arguing over whose room he would sleep in that evening. My 5- and 7-year-old children did not see any physical impairment. On the contrary, they saw him as their brother. As the months passed, we discovered that he was the most difficult baby we'd ever had. The baby sobbed uncontrollably as he was unwell all the time and couldn't sleep. He had appointments all the time. The issue was that each doctor presented a different prognosis for him. One said that he would be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life, while another offered surgery in conjunction with prosthetics, and a third claimed he had a comparable patient who was a high school football player. Slowly, we found ourselves falling in love with this boy despite our reservations about our capacity to care for him. Our commitment to the little guy only deepened and our hearts were opened. He wasn't only a patient in need of a bed, he was our kid, and we made the choice that we would give him everything we had. During our monthly visit, the caseworker inquired as to whether you and your husband would be interested in adopting him. The answer was a resounding yes, although we were both facing the unknown and the reality that this would not be an easy road to walk down. He'd been in our care for 1 year, and he was crawling in his unique way. The fetal alcohol syndrome had finally been ruled out as a cause of his birth. We were able to witness the transformation of this small, ill infant into a healthy, joyful toddler. The little boy was chatty and joyful, and like all children, he threw tantrums. He engaged with all the other activities that other children his age engaged in except for walking, as he was still unable to use his legs. After 522 days in foster care, we were finally able to adopt our son. The adoption was finalized on November 15, 2017 on the National Adoption Day. We chose for him the name Charles in honor of my husband's grandfather. Shortly after his adoption, Charles began crawling differently. Now he was up on his own feet and using his hands for balance. After that, he began to stand up on his own without any assistance. The little boy was resolved to follow in the footsteps of his peers. He quickly learned how to ride a scooter, walk with a walker, and climb the stairs. He was able to adjust to a world that was not designed for him to live in. After his second birthday, he got up and took 6 steps without the assistance of a walker. Those 6 steps were the first of many to come. The foster mom continued, "We've learned that we should never define someone by their condition or place them in a box of things that they supposedly should be able to perform." Charlie is 2 years old today. He enjoys swimming, eating hot dogs with ketchup, and loves playing outside with his buddies. He is slowly but steadily learning to walk with the help of his parents. She further says, "I have no faith that he'll grasp the situation and that he'll not simply walk away. His activities will range from running to playing football or soccer and whatever else he desires. For the time being, he is my sweet, sensitive boy who walks on his hands and rides a scooter better than any other kid his age. He is a little boy who adores his mother and who will defy every single disadvantage placed in his path." I would encourage parents of children who are able-bodied to have a conversation with their children regarding impairments. Discuss how we're all unique and how just because someone doesn't look or act like you, it doesn't imply that they shouldn't be treated any differently than you. It is also acceptable for you and your child to ask questions when people are pointing or staring. I personally take advantage of the opportunity to educate them. Often, after answering their questions and interacting with Charles, they conclude that he couldn't possibly be any cooler than they are. We even have a phrase in our house that goes, "No femurs, no issues," and Charles has certainly demonstrated that this is true. We hope you're as inspired as we are with Charles' story, and we wish more people like his mother